Arteta has transformed Arsenal into monsters.
What I have to be is as competitive as possible.
I'm looking at Arsenal and thinking, this is a top team.
When we go away, I don't know what they do to those players, but they turn into warriors.
Yeah. Right? Arsenal had always been a team that dominated teams physically, as seen from the success they saw under George Graham and the early days of Wenger.
The men who typify Arsenal with us, Tony Adams here.
But in recent times, they had lost their edge.
When you watched Arsenal before Arteta joined, you would watch them sometimes and, they wouldn't have that physical approach in games.
They became known as a team that played beautiful football, but were bullied out of matches.
He is a specialist in failure.
While Arteta has changed that mentality and brought back the qualities that made Arsenal such a successful club.
To create an atmosphere that makes it really good for our players, really difficult for the opponent.
Arteta is better than Arsène in terms of management, of being ruthless with his players.
He has a strategy, an evil one, that will take Arsenal back to the top.
Well, I prefer this much more than somebody clapping my back after the game saying, well done, you guys are in the right direction, than seeing this reaction. Yeah, this is what I do.
A strategy that the media calls the dark arts.
Listening to those City fans moaning about the dark arts.
If we play such a game and at the end the discussion is about those topics, we are in the great direction.
To understand why Arteta's transformation of Arsenal is so important, I have to show you what Arsenal football used to be like. When Arsène Wenger took charge of Arsenal in 1996, he transformed the team into one of the greatest forces in English football. In the 1997-1998 season, Arsenal won their first Premier League title, finishing 7 points ahead of Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United. This win began a period of success for the club. Wenger was a tactical genius and had an ability to really help young players improve, which kept Arsenal at the top. The early 2000s were a golden time for the Gunners. They won both the league and the FA Cup in the 2001-2002 season, thanks to star players like Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp.
Arsenal are the champions! They've taken the title away from Manchester United and they have done the double!
Under Wenger, Arsenal won 3 Premier League titles, including the remarkable 2003-2004 season where they went undefeated, earning the nickname the Invincibles.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing.
To not lose a single game in the entire league campaign is something that is almost impossible to replicate. It showed a level of dominance and brilliance that hadn't been seen before. At this time, Arsenal played fluid football, but were also an insanely physical team. The midfield partnership of Patrick Vieira and Gilberto Silva was scary. 2 giants that were good both defensively and going forward. In defense, they had Sol Campbell and Kolo Touré, a wall with Jens Lehmann behind them. Everyone understood their role and executed with precision. As we will see later in the video, Arteta is making his own type of unbreakable defense. Just like Wenger's early 2000 Arsenal sides, Arteta knows that a good defense is the foundation for a title-winning side.
But you see those 2 centre-backs at that age in the Premier League doing what they're doing, that's very strange, but credit to them. There is something there that is not tangible, but it's very, very important in certain position, and those 2 certainly have that.
But that greatness was tough to maintain. After the remarkable unbeaten season in 2004, Arsenal saw a notable drop in their performance and faced a period without winning any trophies.
Do you look at the difference now following the Invincible year? When you win the league and how quickly it changes.
We didn't improve.
They reached the final of the 2007 and 2011 League Cups, but lost both. With the performances dropping, they began to lose some of their most important players.
We're losing players, key players.
Patrick Vieira, Perez, Ashley Cole, and Ljungberg were sold to begin a rebuild around the new up-and-coming young talents like Cesc Fabregas.
And because of Cesc, the player that he was, he started to think that he had to build the team around Cesc Fabregas.
Club legend Henry signed for FC Barcelona after 8 years at the club.
I wanted to do it though because I think you have to leave a club a certain way. And I thought it was the proper way to leave it.
Former keeper Lehmann believed this transition was too quick and that the younger players did not learn the old values of the title-winning sides.
It's not easy. The philosophy seems to have shifted a little bit.
As the face of the Arsenal setup rapidly changed, so did their ambitions, as Arsenal began to convert into a global brand. The innovative idea to leave Highbury to move to the Emirates Stadium was taken on the assumption it would open the club to achieve a greater commercial revenue, which would in turn be used to fund future transfers. That was the plan at least. But for a while after 2006, the board tightened their spending. They seemed to be happy just creeping into the top 4 and collecting money rather than trying to compete for titles.
No money. The money went into the stadium, and we were losing players every single year.
The loss in physicality was one of the most notable things to change about Arsenal.
The physicality is not there. Before we had a combination of physicality, character and technical skill. These three ingredients right now are not seen together.
The invincible side combined skill with character and athletic ability, but this new Arsenal side under Wenger only focused on skill.
The most significant signings between 2004 and 9, I can't think of a word to describe that bunch. I could, but it might not be usable on television. But they're certainly not what I would call the type of characters that you would want to win you a league. The powerful characters, the strength that you need running through your team.
This is something that Arteta was able to immediately identify and fix, which I will show in detail later in the video.
We have to be dominant, we have to show passion, and we have to show aggression.
The 2011 Arsenal team wasn't bad, but although their football was aesthetically pleasing on the eyes, they weren't winners. What's worse is they began to lose their star players regularly now. Players knew that if they wanted to win trophies, their best chance was outside of Arsenal. Fabregas, who was at the heart of the Arsenal rebuild, left to go to Barcelona. Samir Nasri joined Manchester City and won a Premier League title.
I knew that I made the right decision.
Van Persie left to join rivals Manchester United after having his best individual season at Arsenal in 2012. Next season, he won the Premier League with United.
I had to wait for so long for my first title.
Even when there were some bright moments, like landing Mesut Ozil from Real Madrid, then winning the 2014 FA Cup, it was followed by disappointments, like their 10-2 aggregate loss to Bayern in the Champions League.
An embarrassment for Arsenal and Arsène Wenger in the Champions League, eliminated for the 7th successive season at the last 16 stage.
A reminder that they were not even close to the big teams in world football. The club was broken and a shadow of the teams we saw in the early 2000s.
It's very sad, very, very, very sad. I'm very sad tonight.
The fans were upset and were now calling for Wenger to be fired. Things only got worse under Unai Emery. During his tenure, Arsenal did not qualify for the Champions League, and their overall performance on the field declined. They were on course to finish top 4, but they bottled it, losing against Wolves, Everton, Crystal Palace, and Leicester in their last 8 games. Arsenal fans had some hope left in their system because the team had still made it to a Europa League final, but that hope was gone after Arsenal ended up losing 4-1 to Chelsea. Another low point for Arsenal fans, being dominated in a cup final by one of their London rivals.
They just fell apart, didn't they? He's speechless. I can understand why. It was poor.
The next season didn't get any better, especially when the Xhaka incident occurred. Xhaka was made the Arsenal captain by Emery, and when he was subbed off against Crystal Palace, he was booed by the Arsenal fans for his poor performances on the pitch. The Arsenal captain cupped his ears while hurling swear words back at his own fans. A symbolic moment that reflected the disaster that was the Emery era at Arsenal.
It's really hard to come back from that.
When I left the club and I was somewhere else and I was looking back, all the comments, the energy, when I went to the stadium and feel that it really touches my tummy.
But Arteta has changed all of that. He came in and immediately got rid of the players that he felt were holding the club back. He was here to change the entire mentality and emotion around the club.
I want to embrace everybody together, change the vibe, change the energy, bring energy back to them and convince them and make them feel this we love to do this. This is our profession and we could not pick a better place to do it.
Under Emery and Wenger, defending was an issue. Not under Arteta though. The partnership of Saliba and Gabriel is arguably the best center-back partnership in the world. Fast, strong, good on the ball. These are two players who take pride in defending. They are a brick wall. And what's fantastic is they were pretty much two very unknown talents in Ligue 1 just a few years ago. The same way that Wenger used to develop good players into great, Arteta is doing the same thing. Then if you can somehow get past those two titans, you have to get past Raya, an incredible goalkeeper who can make clutch saves and is excellent with his feet. A true ideal modern day goalie. A lot of people question Arteta's desire to sign another goalie after Ramsdale's success.
And now you sign another keeper and it's a catastrophe.
But it's clear that the Spaniard is a huge upgrade. Put all these pieces together, and it's not a surprise that Arsenal have one of the best defenses in Europe. It takes an unbelievable amount of talent and organization to come to the Etihad and defend the way that Arsenal have. It shows just how stable the club has become ever since Arteta took over. Add Declan Rice to the mix, and you can see that Arteta is bringing back the physicality and athleticism that made the Gunners so dominant in the early 2000s. Arsenal haven't been able to replace Patrick Vieira for ages. That holding midfielder role has been absent for literally decades. While Rice isn't as good as Vieira, he's about as good as you can get in a midfielder in the modern game. Great on the ball, fantastic athlete who is superb at winning the ball back. And he can even come up with clutch goals. As if that wasn't enough, Arteta added physicality to the attack as well by signing Kai Havertz. The signing was criticized by everyone, with people scratching their heads on why Arsenal were signing a Chelsea reject. But now, Arteta's plan is visible. Havertz provides some much needed strength and power in a position where Arsenal really had none. He came on as a sub to score an 89th minute winner against Brentford, a back post header that clinched a much needed 3 points for the Gunners in what was a physically demanding away match. Just 2 weeks later, Havertz came up big again, scoring an equalizer away against Lyon before Declan Rice scored the winner. His profile offers tactical flexibility, allowing the German to be able to be used in different roles and positions. From lay runs into the box to winning aerial duels, Havertz adds a new dimension to an already strong Arsenal side. This new increased physicality has helped Arsenal on the attacking end. They consistently come up with clutch goals from corners. It has allowed them to pick up 3 points from matches that seem lost. There is nothing evil about this. It's simply a team using every advantage they can get.
They needed to gain every bit of advantage they could get. That meant staying down for as long as they did or delaying the restart. Then really, who can blame them?
Arteta continued to increase Arsenal's physicality with the signings of Merino and Calafiori. After losing out on the Premier League title again, Arteta identified 2 areas in the team that required strengthening. The first area was the midfield, and the solution is Mikel Merino. For just 30 million euros, Arsenal have picked up one of the best midfielders in La Liga. If you watch Merino in the Euros, you would have seen glimpses of what he can provide when he came on as a sub for Spain. Strong, good in the air, Merino won more aerial duels than any other midfielder in Europe's top 5 leagues last season. He's also the reason that Spain was able to defeat Germany in the quarterfinals, scoring a headed winner in extra time. Merino's career has been a strange path. He made his debut with Osasuna, a club his father used to play for, then went on to Dortmund and then Newcastle. He actually looked very promising at Newcastle, scoring a late winner in a 1-0 win over Crystal Palace before he was sold to Real Sociedad for around £10 million in 2018. In the last 6 years, he has developed tremendously at Real Sociedad, being arguably their best player last season and one of the very best central midfielders in La Liga. In 2021, he was the man of the match when Real Sociedad won the Copa del Rey. And then last season, he won the most duels for possession in Europe's top leagues at 326. Fun fact, Merino was actually teammates with Odegaard when he lifted the Copa del Rey title that year. At Sociedad, he mainly played as the left number 8 in a 4-3-3. I imagine Arteta wants to use him in a very similar role. But the Spaniard is very flexible. He can play as a lone 6, he can play in a double pivot, he can pretty much play anywhere in the central area of midfield. His versatility is great because it means he can swap and interchange with Rice depending on the game, depending on the opposition. Arteta has that flexibility to rotate these guys around all the time, even mid-match. Merino is press resistant, he is creative on the ball, and more importantly, aggressive. When Xhaka left 2 seasons ago, they never really replaced him. Arteta tried Havertz there, but later in the season it was obvious that the German was much better as a number 9 than as an 8. A player like Fabio Vieira also isn't the profile that Arteta was looking for in that position, because Vieira's skills overlap a lot with Odegaard. What Arsenal needs is an 8 like Merino. He's very physical for both aerial and ground duels, which Arteta seems to value highly based on his signings in the past few years. No longer are Arsenal the technically gifted team that gets bullied around. Arteta has gone for players that are not just good on the ball and skillful, but are competitors, are physical, are aggressive. They battle for the ball. Very similar to the Arsenal teams that we saw in the early 2000s, where they wouldn't just beat you with skill, but also with muscle. On paper, a Merino, Rice, Odegaard midfield is very good. A nice combination of physical athletes, players good on the ball, creativity. You got a little bit of everything. Continuing with the theme of physicality, Arteta has reinforced the left back position. Last season when Timber started there, Arsenal looked solid. Timber was fast, strong, and good on the ball, allowing him to invert in. But after Timber's injury, the drop-off was big. Zinchenko is an absolute defensive liability. Great on the ball, but defensively, it's just so easy to target him. Too many times where he's either been asleep marking at the back post or just beat very easily in 1v1 situations. Kiwior was a lot better defensively and obviously more physical because he's practically a center back, but he wasn't as good on the ball as what Arteta wanted. Arsenal's defense was superb last year, but that left back spot was always weak. Well, what do you do when you have a player like Zinchenko who's very good on the ball but poor defensively, and a guy like Kiwior who's much better defensively but isn't good on the ball? Your solution? Riccardo Calafiori. Fast, strong, good on the ball, Calafiori is the ideal modern day defender. Just look at his assist for Italy's tying goal against Croatia in the group stages. He grabbed the ball in the dying minutes, carried it into midfield himself, running at the Croatian backline, then in the last minute passed it off. He was one of the few Italian players to be able to leave Euro 2024 with their head held up high. His confidence and comfortability on the ball is really impressive, and it's exactly what Arteta was looking for. He played center back for Bologna last season because Motta saw how good he could be there, but the Italian has played as a fullback his entire career before. Calafiori flourished as a ball-playing center back in Bologna's 4-2-3-1 setup. He was able to carry the ball when building out of the back and was excellent at reading the game. He was the cornerstone of the third best defense in Serie A. Arteta and Edu clearly value versatility a lot. You look at Ben White, Tomiyasu, Kiwior, great defenders who can play both at fullback and center back, and Calafiori has that exact same quality. He's very similar to Ben White, just on the left-hand side. He's 4 years younger, so his ceiling is even higher, but very similar qualities. Good physically, fast, but also comfortable enough on the ball. It's the same for all of these guys who start out as fullbacks and then transition to playing center back. It's basically trial by fire. You're forced to be good on the ball or else you don't even get playing time. You can no longer push Arsenal over. They have skillful players like Odegaard and Saka, but they also have the physical players that can bully teams. It's a quality in the Gunners that we haven't seen in years. While the media wants to paint Arsenal as some evil team, fans will know that this is a sign of progress. Speaking of progress, no one has made a bigger push to superstardom than Saka. To see how Saka is following in the footsteps of Thierry Henry, check out this video right here.